Sponsored by Dennis J. Courtney, M.D., Director of the Courtney Medical Group, located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray, Pennsylvania. For more information or to make an appointment, call 724-942-3002. That's 724-942-3002 for Dennis J. Courtney, M.D.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to AM Impact on Your Health. AM Impact on Your Health, where every day our goal is to have you learn at least one thing to help you live better and longer. AM Impact on Your Health, heard every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney, and I'm with you each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9. AM Impact on Your Health, where each day you'll find current medical news, knowledgeable guests, fascinating health topics, and of course, we always encourage you to call in to join in. Today, I'm going to meet with a old new friend who's just on our show 1 week ago. He brought with us to us a message we actually, and I mentioned it then, I'll say it again, we had never really discovered before. The subject of aging, how to do so gracefully, the problems, the pitfalls, the family issues. We found out by our listeners who were calling us up with great rapidity that there's a lot of interest out there on this subject. And so we asked Dr. Eric Shapira to come back. He's the author of a book entitled, well, he sent me a copy in the meantime, by the way, A New Wrinkle, What I Learned from Older People Who Never Acted Their Age. We're going to be with Dr. Eric Shapira today, talking about aging issues and how to do so gracefully, and allowing you, as always, to call up to ask a question and make a comment. The number will be, of course, 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. Dr. Eric Shapira today with us right after that first break. Now, looking at the book, I want to mention the Freedom of Choice in Cancer Therapy group meets this week. Used to do it on the third Thursday. We're going to have it's the 1st of April. Anyway, they got a pretty interesting guest up there. He's been here before. He traveled a long distance to come here. Very intelligent man, written many books. Dr. Thomas Levy will be up at the Freedom of Choice in Cancer Therapy group, 7:30 p.m. Hey, on Wednesday, March 31st. A lot of changes. Last week in the month, not Thursday, but Wednesday. You got a lot to remember out there, folks. But you want to try to make it up there to listen to Dr. Levy talking about things like vitamin C and glutathione. He's an expert on all. And so happened to mention that he is the Freedom of Choice in Cancer Therapy group guest for the month up in Butler, the Days Inn, just south of Butler, on the right there at 7 o'clock. All sorts of things changing. Hey, 7 o'clock. I'll get it right now. 7 o'clock, not 7:30. Wednesday, not Thursday. And last Wednesday of the month, not third Thursday. All sorts of changes. Please make the note. Hope you enjoy a visit up there to listen to Dr. Levy. Let's see. For the Spirit, got to talk about it. Got that note from Deanna Naylor. We read a little bit of that testimonial the other day when we were on the air, and I just think it's such a worthwhile company. We're going to be bringing back in the month of April a lot of the folks we have contacted before, talking about Deborah, talking about Deanna, the people from Dr. Peterson, remember, from formulation. So we can discuss more this issue of the 14 fruit purees, biblical fruit purees, the alkaline minerals from the Dead Sea, the frankincense, the myrrh, and of course, resveratrol, all wrapped into one in a wonderful tasting drink. If you have a mind to order some, you can do so a couple ways. One, you can call this number, 1-800-442-3793, 800-442-3793. You can, if you're techie inclined, do it online at fruitspirit.net. That's fruitspirit.net. Another company we've promoted quite a bit here in the last month or two is this company called Ciara. Really unique. One of a kind, at least as far as I'm concerned up to now, best of my knowledge, one of a kind, making transparent holographic chips for various and sundry reasons. The three that were the hallmark and the original signature chips were those for pain problems, sleep issues, as well as energy. Now to be added to by two more, one for EMF, electromagnetic forces that abound and surround and bombard us each and every day. And then there's a final entry in the realm, actually only as of a couple of weeks ago, when they launched in Houston. We were here with that product pre-launch. The rest of the country didn't even know about it. Now they're going to become aware of it. You're going to be hearing more and more about them. You've heard first here, but you'll be seeing these chips creep up all over the place with your practitioners, and you can gain a lot of interest as you hook up with your practitioners that you've trusted for a long time. Of course, we brought it to you first, and happy to do so. The final entry into the field is on the injuries resulting in the bothersome aches and pains and so forth of physical activity, long distance running, and the like. And we'll get somebody from the company of Shapira on our show. These chips don't carry with them any medication, any drug. They're just placed on the skin. And due to Oriental energy medicine that certainly has withstood the test of time, energy signatures are able to penetrate throughout the meridians of the body and create the very thing that they say they're supposed to help. I've had quite a bit of experience with especially the pain chip, absolutely. So Shapira, if you're interested in them, you can go on the website at www.drcourtney.shapira.com. That's www.doctor, spelled with DR, COURTNEY.Shapira, that's CIEAURA.com. drcourtney.shapira.com. What else? That pretty much rounds that out. We're going to go to our guest early today, see if we can get in as much as we can in on this subject. So much comes along with this topic of aging and dying with dignity and the family crisis that result from all that, and absolutely felt that our guest was right on target with this, Dr. Eric Shapira. So let's do this much. Let's take a short break. And in the interim, we're going to get with a good friend way out there on the West Coast. He's awake. He's had a couple cups of coffee in him by now, and he'll be able to talk about his book, The New Wrinkle, What I Learned from Older People Who Never Acted Their Age. Be right back in a moment with Dr. Eric Shapira.
This is Dennis J. Courtney, MD. Have you become confused about how best to manage your health? It's no wonder. It seems that every time you turn on the television or radio, another expert has yet another suggestion for you to follow that seems to be reasonable enough, but no matter how dutifully you follow the instructions, it just doesn't quite produce the results that you are looking for. If this confusion sounds familiar to you, give us a call at the Center for Complementary Health, where we'll make some sense of the confusion based on a blending of traditional and alternative medicine that we've been perfecting over the last 7 years. We offer metabolic nutrition testing, immune system repair, natural hormone replacement therapy, chelation therapy, cutting-edge allergy correction, and a host of other safe and effective alternative therapies.
Dennis J. Courtney, MD, is located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray. Phone 724-942-3002.
Want to help your family eat healthier? Instead of learning to disguise tofu in wondrous ways, how about some real nutritional power? If your family has the typical American palate for fries, pizza, and burgers, giving your family the blessing of good nutrition is a struggle. Fruit of the Spirit is the answer for your family's nutritional needs. Fruit of the Spirit is an all-natural whole fruit puree made from fresh fruits native to the Holy Land with alkalizing minerals. Through the Spirit was 5 years in the formulation, the work of a team of top nutritional experts with independent science to confirm its antioxidant power. 1 ounce a day provides the equivalent of 5 servings of fruits and minerals. Through the Spirit is convenient, affordable, and delicious. Even your picky family will sing the praises of Fruit of the Spirit. Give your loved ones the blessing of good nutrition. Call 1-800-442-3793 for a special promotional offer. Fruit of the Spirit, a blessing for your good health. That's 1-800-442-3793. Call them now, 1-800-442-3793.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back once again to Impact on Your Health. Heard here on KHB 620 each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney with you on this Monday version of the show. And, okay, it was a little wet and soggy yesterday, maybe a little so today. But an old new friend of ours, as I guess better put it, because we just had him on our show a week ago. But his message was captivating. His knowledge and understanding of the issues surrounding aging, dying, and the like literally were mesmerizing. We found out by how much our phone was ringing off the hook that there's a lot of interest out there on this subject. And so we bring him back to you again today. Dr. Eric Shapira practiced dentistry for over 30 years in the Half Moon Bay Coast Side. He received a master's degree in clinical gerontology from Notre Dame de Namur University. He is an educator and has taught courses in healthy aging, successful aging, as well as courses in geriatric aesthetic dentistry and special patient care. He has numerous other degrees and accolades we won't get into here. His book, which I was lucky enough to get a copy of in the ensuing week since last week, entitled A New Wrinkle, What I Learned from Older People Who Never Acted Their Age. It's a guidebook for both parents and children who need to know about the aging process and how to confront the issues of aging. He's with us now. Let's say good morning to him. And welcome back, Dr. Shapira.
Thank you, Dr. Courtney. It's a pleasure to be with you again.
I tell you, you did light up the switchboard last week. It was quite apparent. Well, I told you while we had you on the air that it was the first time in all the years I've been doing shows that we really moved out into the realm of aging and gerontology. And it looks as though it was pent up in a lot of those listeners who bombarded us with phone calls. Very good ones, by the way.
That's great, yeah.
Yeah, I know. And it just pointed out to me, and I'm sure to you, that the topic, I hope the book is doing very well. Certainly to have you meet our Pittsburgh listeners has done well by us, and we hope by you. So here we are back again. And with a little bit of a prompter, you were nice enough to send me a copy of your book in the interim. I've found it to be a very interesting read. I've leafed through it a bunch. Try to recap for us to set the stage for what we'll do today on your interest in gerontology, your motivation for writing that book, what you're doing with that nowadays, and what you feel our listener would best be helpful to them in setting the stage for what we might discuss today.
Well, I was a dentist, as you said, for some 30-plus years, and I was teaching in a dental school, and I developed courses in working with medically compromised individuals, and most of those people were elderly, if you will, and I went to a hospital in San Francisco called Laguna Honda Hospital, which was a skilled nursing facility, basically. And I was teaching dental students to work with medically compromised individuals, and we did head and neck exams and diagnostic workups on the ambulatory patients in a chronic care facility, if you will. And what I discovered from doing this, and this was a segment of society that they may not be privy to in a private practice, we found that about 8 to 10% of those people that we examined had medical issues that went undiagnosed, which was kind of shocking, but not shocking enough to send us off crying, but we were able to refer these people to the pertinent physicians and those people that could help them medically. And also, there were wards where there were people that had congenital and genetic abnormalities that I introduced these students to, and those are patients that they might not ever see unless they worked in a facility like that. And so I really had an interest in helping a segment of the population that I call silent sufferers. There were people that, a lot of people, and some of them didn't look like people, that couldn't tell you where it hurt or if they had a problem, and probably didn't get the adequate dental care that they needed. There was a dentist in the facility, but he was a person that just pulled teeth and made dentures for most people. And so it was a difficult time. It was in the early 80s, and when I was in the dental school there, and I developed an interest in working with patients who had medical issues that most dentists didn't want to deal with. And I had a medical residency and I had a dental internship and a medical internship and a dental residency in a hospital in San Francisco, where I worked on medically compromised individuals for a year after dental school. And so all of these things culminated in an interest for me to work with people that might not receive care any other way. And I was studying gerontology. I went back to get a master's degree in clinical gerontology because I wanted to have more credibility in teaching the subject. And as luck would have it, I had a neck injury. I was not able to practice dentistry anymore. I had neck surgery, and I had the gerontology to fall back onto. And then I went and got a second master's degree in health administration because I wanted to learn how to navigate the system. And I wanted to learn more business acumen because this was a cross degree between a master's in business administration and public health. And I learned some really interesting things in this degree program that helped me formulate methods of treating or working with families who were in crisis. And that's basically what I see as a gerontologist. I see families in crisis who don't have a plan and who are not prepared for the transitions of aging that can affect all of us in some manner. And they call me saying, they call me for help and ask me to come in and help them with their parents' issues or their own issues or issues with their own children. I mean, I see a lot of people of different age groups. And that's how I got into gerontology, and that's what I'm doing. And I was unfortunate enough to have a failed first surgery on my neck. And I went through a second surgery and had a huge collar on my neck, and it was very difficult to sleep at nights, and I had to wear this thing 24/7 except to shower for at least a year. And it was an encumbrance I wouldn't recommend to anyone. And so I sat down at the computer every night and I started writing this book, because every time I gave a lecture or every time I was someplace where I talked about gerontological issues or dental issues or what have you, people asked if I had a book, and I didn't have one. And so I sat down and started writing, and it just came out. I had been working as a senior peer counselor for the county, both counseling individuals in English and Spanish. And I found a lot of people out there who needed to talk to somebody about where they were in time and space with respect to their aging process and their transitioning to different stages in their lives. Some were going to die and knew it, and some didn't know it. And but most of the people that I worked with had a very positive attitude about life, even in the depths of their depression. They were people that were skilled. They had a profession. Most of them had a profession, but they loved life, and we're trying to figure out how to navigate the system, if you will, of life, and stay in it, not go out of it.
Not leave it too prematurely.
And be productive in the process.
Now, that was a lengthy recap, but I'm glad you brought us up to date on what brought you here to this arena. Your book, extensive chapter dedicated to the diseases of aging, I guess, and then actually in that same chapter talking about some modalities and therapies that could be beneficial. Here's a question that sort of grabbed me, that I'll just ask you off the cuff, because as many of the aged that you have confronted, been around, probably interviewed either directly or indirectly for this book, what are the key elements to those who do age well and do age in a healthy way? Or how about this? I think I've heard this description before. Centenarians. I don't know how many you know, but you have to say that the special category of individuals, centenarians, often to speak of what they attribute their ability to achieve 100 years of life, and how is it that they were able to do that? As you've done the research for this book, either directly or indirectly, you've gained an insight into those key elements of those who age maybe gracefully or age eternally because they make it to the centenarian years. Any sort of parallels you can draw in those that do this well and do it healthily and do it for a long time?
Well, yes, some of the people of an older ilk, if you will, 99 to 100 on up, had a zest for learning, and they continue to learn, number one. So, in effect, they were stimulating their minds. And that's one of the keys to staying youthful and stimulating your neurons, which are cells that you probably know live as long as you do. They're the longest living cells in the human body. You're born with them, and they age with you. And if you learn to keep them young by stimulating them, they will stay bright and shining as long as you feed them, in a sense.
Interesting.
And
learning.
There is a new field now called neurobics, and it's a way to not only learn, but it's a way to stimulate learning with the use of your memory banks. So if you're right-handed, we ask that you once in a while switch to your left hand to do things. So if you're ambidextrous, you got it knocked. And I see many older people stimulating their minds by doing things like that. Well, if they're out digging in the garden, they might switch shoveling to the left hand. Or what they're recommending is that you close your eyes and identify things through your sense of smell, and then talk about what comes to mind. So if I handed you a rose, Dennis, and asked you to close your eyes, and I asked you to smell that rose, you might think about maybe that first rose you bought for that first date of yours when you went to the high school prom. Or if it was a woman, she might think about the first rose she ever received going to a high school prom, or something like that. They ask you to, we ask you people to come into their homes at night, to keep the lights off, and use your memory to find where things are in your home. You basically know where your kitchen and your living room and your bedroom are. Well, feel your way around until you get there. So you're stimulating different parts of your brain. It isn't just as if you're doing a crossword puzzle and working on your prefrontal cortex. But if you sit in front of a television set, and by the way, the national average for people over 65 of watching TV is 7 hours a day, and you took an MRI scan of somebody's brain watching TV, it's going to be colorless. And the minute you put them on a computer or give them a game to play or a book to read, that brain lights up like a rainbow.
Metabolic activity emerges, huh?
Absolutely. So learning is something, and stimulating the brain in different ways is something I've observed in most all the people of that age group. Another thing is staying ambulatory, and that means moving your body. We were given joints. We need to move them to keep them lubed and to keep them useful. And, you know, as we age, we lose water from our system. Our joints get stiff. We don't move as much. We get tired easily. So we need to challenge ourselves in order to move and to do things. If you're going to go to the supermarket, park furthest away from the front door and walk a little bit further to the front door to give you a little bit more exercise. As the Surgeon General says, well, we need to exercise at least 30 minutes most days of the week with a constant force, if you want to call it that, to stimulate your cardiac output so that you're pumping, your heart's pumping the blood as much as it can to all parts of your body. And I see a good deal of people at that age who are exoskeletons. They're not heavy. They're not overweight. They're just right. They're slim and they're built for speed and not for comfort. And for every pound of fat in our bodies, we've got an extra mile of blood vessels that are shunting blood away from the heart. So they're not real heavy people. Maybe because they don't eat as much, or they don't need to eat as much, or they're eating healthier. I don't know. I knew a 99-year-old vegan who didn't eat any meat, and she was a very attractive woman. Her skin was beautiful. She had very few wrinkles, unlike the elephant on the cover of my book, A New Wrinkle. And she loved life. She was a teacher in her younger days, and she was always a teacher. She was always teaching somebody something. She drove a car. She was active. She read every day. I had a 102-year young person who I worked with who read 20 books a month, and so kept moving and walking. She owned a farm. She would work around the farm, and was stimulating her body as well as her mind. So learning, staying ambulatory, staying social is a really big thing. So these people did not cloister themselves in their homes or stay by themselves. They liked family around, and they liked to be in places where there were other people, and they enjoyed life in that sense. So
there is a really great insight that, thanks for giving us a peek at.
And there's more about diet and other things, but for the most part, a lot of them had a spiritual side to their lives as well, and that's really important. There was a study done, it's called the Okinawa study in Okinawa, Japan, where there are more centenarians, or there were, than any place in the world. You can look it up online, and it isn't just a few things, it's a lifestyle that has been developed by these people over time. And it's a very interesting study, so anybody who wants to read that can look at some of the things that I've seen in older people.
You are with Dr. Eric Shapira today. As you can see, he is so knowledgeable in this issue of aging, how to do so gracefully, how to do so, and potentially even arrive at your centenarian years. We got, of course, much more to talk about today, and I'll be happy if you want to come on in and chime in and ask a question of the doctor. 412-825-6262. Why don't we do this? Let's take a short break. When we come back, I'm going to talk about an area of aging that I hadn't really thought of. But boy, it looks to be extremely important. Things called intimacy. Hey, we'll be back talking to the expert in just a moment. See you then.
Have you been to the doctor lately? Was fatigue top of your complaint list? Even if your doctor asks you what you eat, the recommended 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day is a dream in your busy schedule. What if you learned of a product 5 years in the formulation that delivers 5 servings of fruits and minerals in just 1 ounce? That's right, it's Fruit of the Spirit. The blessings of Fruit of the Spirit are now formulated into a delicious whole fruit puree product rich in antioxidants and minerals. Your health is more than just a test result. It's a balance of physical, spiritual, and emotional factors. You work regularly to strengthen your faith. Let Fruit of the Spirit help cover your nutritional needs in a convenient and cost-effective ounce a day. Call 1-800-442-3793 for a special promotional offer. Fruit of the Spirit, a blessing for your good health. Fruit of the Spirit, 5 servings of fruits and minerals with no added sugars. That's 1-800-442-3793 for your good health. Call them now, 1-800-442-3793.
This is Dennis J. Courtney, MD. You become confused about how best to manage your health. It's no wonder. It seems that every time you turn on the television or radio, another expert has yet another suggestion for you to follow that seems to be reasonable enough, but no matter how dutifully you follow the instructions, it just doesn't quite produce the results that you are looking for. If this confusion sounds familiar to you, give us a call at the Center for Complementary Health, where we'll make some sense of the confusion based on a blending of traditional and alternative medicine that we've been perfecting over the last 7 years. We offer metabolic nutrition testing, immune system repair, natural hormone replacement therapy, chelation therapy, cutting-edge allergy correction, and a host of other safe and effective alternative therapies.
Dennis J. Courtney, M.D. is located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray. Phone 724-942-3002.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back once again to AM Impact on Your Health. Heard here on KHB 620 each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney with you today on this Monday version of the show. And with us, a good friend, and maybe new, but nonetheless, boy, does he have some information of interest to us all. His name is Dr. Eric Shapira, has written a book. We strongly urge and encourage any of you out there to get hold of this book, A New Wrinkle, What I Learned from Older People Who Never Acted Their Age. Dr. Eric Shapira, clinical gerontologist, is with us today. To say good morning and welcome back to Eric. You still there, my friend?
I'm here, Dr. Courtney. I'm here.
Hey, without going any further, let's talk about how those listeners out there can get a hold of the book.
Well, I have a website. It's newwrinklebook.com, and they can get a personalized autographed copy by going to my website. They can go to Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com or request it at any bookstore. I also have a work site, which is AgingMentorServices.com, and you can get the book through that website as well.
Okay, folks, hope you jot that down. We will allow him to bring that message to get his pencil and paper. That was a little too quick, out of sequence for you. We'll hit that again. Also, interestingly, and I'm never surprised anymore of the Pittsburgh connection with a lot of our guests here. I'm talking to Dr. Shapira, way out in the West Coast, but turns out you do have a Pittsburgh connection, don't you?
Yes, most of my family came from Pittsburgh. Both my mother and father came from Pittsburgh. I have cousins there. I hope they're listening, Diane and Harvey Bendix, and he's a veterinarian. I'm hoping maybe you'll get him onto your show someday for an interesting conversation about animals and who are basically needed by people. That's the other thing I was going to tell you about. I think that a lot of these older people have animals as pets and companions. The Shapira connection goes way back. My grandfather immigrated to the United States through Canada and then went to Pittsburgh, and actually they all lived on a farm in Gibsonia in the beginning, and then they moved into Pittsburgh proper.
Goodness. Well, welcome home.
Thank you.
And to all those relatives of Dr. Shapira out there, welcome aboard. Glad to have you as listeners, and we're certainly going to take you up on your offer to solicit your brother. Is it your brother-in-law?
It's my cousin.
Your cousin.
Mm-hmm.
The veterinarian. Bring him on the show, too, one of these days in the near future. So any other hellos you want to make, Dr. Shapira?
No, just hello to the rest of my family if they're listening, and people that knew me when I went to school there. And I went to the University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine for a few years, and I met a lot of people there, but I haven't been back for a long time. I guess it's time to revisit my roots.
There you go. Very good. Okay. Back to the discussion. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, you want to get in on this, ask a question or make a comment, that number 412-825-6262, 412-825-6262. Now, in the book, you take great length to describe, well, I like the title, so I'm just going to blurt out the title because it's real catchy, but I'm going to let you take it for a bit, describing why so much attention to this issue. The title, here it is, Sex is not the answer, sex is the question. Yes is the answer. What a catchy title. Describe why you, and then you went and developed your 10 stages of intimacy, which I'd never seen written before, so that's a Dr. Shapira coined evolution. Talk to us a bit about how important sex and intimacy is in those who are aging.
Well, I think it's extremely important because we need that sense of touch. Touch is our most intimate form of communication. And I'm not saying that sex is, at any age, is a source of intimacy, but intimacy does not necessarily have to be part of the sexual act, if you will, when you're younger. As we age, we develop a sense of agape, which is a deep sense of love among individuals. But I think it's important for people to have intimacy at an older age, and I see that with lots of different people where hugging is extremely important. I don't know if you've heard, you need to get your 10 hugs in a day, Dennis. That's really, really important for people because you're showing affection for one another and you're touching each other. Of course, you don't go down the street hugging people and touching people because you could end up in jail. But for the most part, I always ask people if I can hug them, if I know them or if I don't know them, or if I feel like I've got some kind of a mental thing going on with somebody and I really like the discussion. I would, if I was in front of you right now, Dennis, I'd say, you'd shake my hand and say thanks for being here, and I'd want to give you a hug because I really appreciate what you did for me by telling people about my book and letting me discuss this subject. And there's no sex involved, but it's an intimate thing to hug somebody, and we all need that. It's one of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and that's the sense of belonging. If you take the Aborigines or some indigenous peoples, if they want to punish someone, they send them away from the tribe, and they're not allowed to have any contact with people. They wither and die because they don't get that intimacy. They don't get that touch, that kind of relationship anymore, and we can't live without it. So at any age, we need to hold hands, we need to touch more, and we need to hug. And I spent a lot of time in Alzheimer's groups and dementia groups talking to the caregivers of people who are infirm mentally in some respects, but still have their physical abilities. And it seems that the caregivers are usually in denial about their own sense of intimacy and are afraid to have intimacy with their partner because, one, they don't want to confront the issue. Number two, they're afraid of hurting the person, and sometimes they feel shunned or depressed because that person doesn't really know who they are or doesn't remember it. In some cases, it works quite well because when I remember interviewing an older couple, a man who came into a restaurant, and I was very bold. I went up to him and I said, "Excuse me, sir, I'm doing some research on a new book, and I'd like to ask you some personal questions about your sex life. Is that okay?" And he lit up like a light. He said, "Why, sure." And he must have been about 88 years young. Mm-hmm. And he said, "Go right ahead." So I said, "Well, how often do you have sex?" And he said, "Every day." And he almost floored me. And I said, "Every day?" He said, "Yes, and my wife loves it. She has dementia. She can't remember from one day to the next when we had sex, and so I'm having a great time. And she loves the intimacy. She loves being touched and loves being romanced." So I found more and more people who were couples in this sense, and caregiving and having compromised spouses, where they either did have some intimacy or they didn't have some intimacy, and I asked them what they did. So I interviewed a lot of people, and I came up with a 10-stage prescription, if you will, for intimacy, and it's based on touch. It's based on being together. Holding hands and talking to each other is the first thing, and touch is involved in the whole process, and touch going from touching your hair, your face, and caressing, massage, to hugging and holding and kissing, and so you've got all your senses being stimulated. And I've been in Alzheimer's facilities interviewing people where I was talking to a man one day about his life and in all aspects of his life, and a woman came up to me and she lifted up her blouse because in Alzheimer's disease you tend to lose your inhibitions. And I saw two breasts staring at me, and I wanted to laugh, but I didn't because it was really out of the ordinary. And she said, "Can you talk to me when you're done?" And I said, "Certainly, dear. Just go back to your home and I'll be there shortly." She said, "You know where I live?" I said, "Yes, I do." And so she put her blouse down and went back to her room. But if I had made a big deal about it, it might have ended in a negative way. So as the stages go up, the more activity is required for each stage, and you talk about it with your partner, and you feel your way. It's an experiment, and this whole thing is predicated on experimenting and acceptance, and it's not a foolproof method of satisfying each other, but at least it allows you to express yourself and not deny your own intimacy, and to find some fulfillment in being with someone that you love or have loved for so many years. And that's why I wrote this. I researched that for 5 years. There's nothing written about it anywhere, and I did an awful lot of interviewing, and some of the things were quite funny in the responses that I got, like the one I just told you. But and there was a quote in that chapter by George Bernard Shaw who said, "I was taught when I was young that if people would only love one another, all would be well with the world." And this seems simple and very nice, but I found when I tried to put it into practice, not only that other people were seldom lovable, but I was not very lovable myself. And that all comes back to the way you relate to people, the way you were patterned off your parents. My parents were very loving individuals. They were always holding hands. They were always hugging. They were always kissing. And I saw a lot of this in my family, and the people in my family. So I had good role models for this kind of a thing, although I was afraid of sex when I was younger, because my father put the fear in me about impregnating somebody when I was not in love with somebody, and being responsible for my choice in life. So I had to learn too, and the only thing we can never get enough of, says Henry Miller, is love, and the only thing we never give enough of is love. And so it's an intangible thing for the most part, if you want to be ethereal about it, but we need to express our feelings and accept the feelings of others in order to feel whole. And I think that of all the people that I've talked to of an older ilk need to have this kind of a thing. Even if their partner has passed away, they still need intimacy. And a lot of people, again, are dating through the internet at an older age, up into their 80s, and I just read about a lady who's 88, and she still wants to date, still wants to have a good time, and still wants to receive intimacy from someone. So it's a basic need, and I think that I see this in a lot of people, and that's why I wrote about it.
This discussion begs a couple of questions, and let's see if I'm on target or off target here. One would be, there's an almost maybe now unhealthy viewpoint that others have with respect to the age, in that it could be a impression of mine that as we age, we become less interested with intimacy as opposed to as interested or more. Would you call that a fallacy? Would you say that as we age,
No, I think that's a real thing. I'm saying that maybe a specific example with this person who's asking that question. I've seen it with a man that was a boyfriend of my mother's. They lived together. They cohabitated. They had a sexual relationship in the beginning, and then they kind of drew apart. They still lived together, and they still held hands when they went out, and they still hugged, but they didn't have sex anymore. It was not important to them at that point. But I think that, in any relationship, there's a fire and a passion that you find in the beginning of the relationship. And I look at my 94-year young mother-in-law. She's 18 inside. She's told me that. So she sees herself as a young woman. She's still extremely handsome looking and voluptuous, if you will. She can be when she dresses up, and guys hit on her all the time, younger men. And it's interesting to watch. And I finally, and I wrote about her in the book, and I asked her one day, I said, well, you can't tell me you weren't flattered by the comments you just got. You told me about this man that tried to hit on her in a supermarket. And she said, yes, I was flattered. And, she has certain fears about being intimate with people because she doesn't want to be taken advantage of. And that's what she thought would happen with someone broaching her at that age and that stage of the game. But I think you have to address your own anxieties about intimacy and being close to someone, and look at the ramifications of what you think, why you think you're not wanting to be intimate anymore. And there may be some fear there for some unknown reason that has to be addressed. And I don't think that's a common thing, but I think some people do feel that.
The other question that was resonating in my own mind as we were speaking about the intimacy issue, was something I'd never thought of before. So I'm going to ask you to maybe elaborate just a little more on it. It was apparent in your description of one couple that one of the couple was impaired. The other, because when you said caregiver, I was thinking maybe of you meant caregiver as meaning the spouse
Yes.
of an impaired
Yes.
individual, but that the intimacy that can exist between an impaired person who may not even have a good cognitive interpretation of what's going on. You say this is healthy for both of the members of that couple, and that the one should not. I would look at that and say, oh my God, geez, that doesn't even sound right. Is there something wrong with me to think that? That doesn't sound right. It's like taking advantage of somebody that.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. These are people that have been married a long time, 40 years or so, and then they've got a spouse that doesn't recognize them anymore, or may not, go in and out of recognizing who they might be. There have been movies made about this kind of a thing, where people go in and out, and there's one I'm thinking of, and I can't remember the name of it right now, but it's a very good example of this type of thing. I think, it's a mindset, and if you live with somebody for 45 or 50 years, you'd want to be intimate with that person. And if they didn't remember you, it would be very painful, it would be very hurting, it would be a hurtful thing. So why should you stop trying to express yourself in the midst of them not knowing who you are, unless they actually get combative? But if you go by this 10 stages of intimacy where you're talking and you're reading to each other and you're holding each other and you're recanting your life together, where you may be able to bring back some of those memories enough to have them recognize you so that you can express your emotions and your feelings and have some kind of physical contact with them. I'm not talking about just going and having intercourse. I'm talking about all the other stuff around the intimacy. And I defined intimacy as into me see, Dennis. Into me see. Letting someone see who you really are by talking about your innermost self and your feelings and the way you feel about life and the way you feel about them. And being close to them is very important.
I
have people in that genre who will go off and have a different kind of a relationship, even though they're being with their spouse who doesn't remember them. They'll go off because they want to have sex. They don't feel they want to have sex with the spouse anymore because of the fact that they don't want to, as you said, it doesn't feel right because that person doesn't know who they are anymore, so they go find a girlfriend or a boyfriend and have sex that way. And I don't poo-poo them, if you will, and put them down for their choice, because they need certain things. Everybody needs certain things in life, and I'm not going to stand in judgment of anybody. I'm not an expert in that in marriage, but I certainly see a lot of people who are in relationships and have different kinds of relationships.
Wonderful perspectives you're giving us, areas I hadn't even thought of before, and I thank you for that discussion. The book is very, very in depth in this particular issue, and I recommend those who are listening out there to us today to get that book so that they too can get an appreciation for something that's very rarely talked about. I think you're right when you say no one ever wrote about that. I never saw it anywhere in print.
No, it isn't anywhere. I've researched a lot of stuff, and it's not anywhere.
No, I think that really you're to be commended for adding this discussion.
Thank you.
Going to take a short break now, allowing those of you out there that think they want to give us a call, 412-825-6262. To do so, that's 412-825-6262. We will be back in a moment.
This is Dennis J. Courtney, MD. Have you become confused about how best to manage your health? It's no wonder. It seems that every time you turn on the television or radio, another expert has yet another suggestion for you to follow that seems to be reasonable enough, but no matter how dutifully you follow the instruction, it just doesn't quite produce the results that you are looking for. If this confusion sounds familiar to you, give us a call at the Center for Complementary Health, where we'll make some sense of the confusion based on a blending of traditional and alternative medicine that we've been perfecting over the last 7 years. We offer metabolic nutrition testing, immune system repair, natural hormone replacement therapy, chelation therapy, cutting-edge allergy correction, and a host of other safe and effective alternative therapies.
Dennis J. Courtney, M.D. is located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray. Phone 724-942-3002.
Want to help your family eat healthier? Instead of learning to disguise tofu in wondrous ways, how about some real nutritional power? If your family has the typical American palate for fries, pizza, and burgers, giving your family the blessing of good nutrition is a struggle. Fruit of the Spirit is the answer for your family's nutritional needs. Fruit of the Spirit is an all-natural whole fruit puree made from fresh fruits native to the Holy Land with alkalizing minerals. Fruit of the Spirit was 5 years in the formulation, the work of a team of top nutritional experts with independent science to confirm its antioxidant power. 1 ounce a day provides the equivalent of 5 servings of fruits and minerals. Fruit of the Spirit is convenient, affordable, and delicious. Even your picky family will sing the praises of Fruit of the Spirit. Give your loved ones the blessing of good nutrition. Call 1-800-442-3793 for a special promotional offer. Fruit of the Spirit, a blessing for your good health. That's 1-800-442-3793. Call them now, 1-800-442-3793.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back once again to AM Impact on Your Health. Heard here on KHV 620 each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney with you on this gun lap portion of the show as we're coming around that corner, going into the home stretch. You are with Dr. Eric Shapira, author of a book entitled A New Wrinkle, What I Learned from Older People Who Never Acted Their Age. We're learning a lot about the issue of aging gracefully and really the components of that, some of which has been startlingly new. You'll only find in this book. Others, I think, are just greatly added upon to what may have been written about before. But Dr. Shapira, you really are to be commended for the excellent job that you did by putting this thing together.
Thank you, Dr. Courtney.
Now, you do have you got a listener out there who wants to get in on this, so why don't we invite him in the store? Come on aboard. Hello and welcome.
Hi, good morning, Dr. Courtney and
Yes.
Dr. Shapiro.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Dr. Courtney, this is Teresa, the one that's going to...
Oh, I know you, Teresa. Go ahead.
Let me sing you some... But you can take this as a punt. First, I want to thank you for bringing this man and his message to us. And then you can take this as a punt. It's been really touching for me to listen to him.
Very good.
That's about all I have to say.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you,
For
Teresa.
everything. All right, bye-bye.
All right. And I'll take that as a very positive comment by a very thankful listener.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Eric Shapira here with us today. By the way, let's one more time give those folks out there the ability. I told them to get a pencil and paper a while ago. How do they get your book? Please go right ahead.
My website is newwrinklebook.com. That's with 2 W's, newwrinklebook.com. Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com. You can request it at any bookstore, and they'll hopefully get it for you. Otherwise, you can get it online, and I will personally sign the book for you if you go to newwrinklebook.com.
Okay. Now
You can go to agingmentorservices.com, which is my business site as well. It's on there as well.
Okay, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Now we're in the gun lap portion of the show. We're going around home stretch, and actually is probably is befitting and very appropriate. Let's talk about the issue of dying itself. And boy, I guess the individual that would come to mind on a subject such as this would be Kubler-Ross. I'm sure you're very familiar with her. And I thought that the little perspective that someone had taken with respect to visiting a graveyard was talking about the dashes in between the dates. Center our conversation to this last element to this discussion with a little bit of paraphrasing about that, because I thought it was touching.
Yes, well, let's get a little humorous about this to break a little tension. Woody Allen, as I said in my book, was quoted one day that he's not afraid of dying, he just didn't want to be there when it happened. And,
that's Woody Allen.
Yeah, we all look at death as being a painful and terrible thing. It's a part of life, and it breeds a loss for us. So, and none of us, really know what to expect. I did a movie with, I filmed a gentleman who had 4 PhDs, probably one of the most intelligent men I ever met in my life, Dr. Heinz von Forster. And I asked him, he was dying at the time, and I asked him about his own death process, which he didn't want to visit, but, if he said if death was all that bad, people would be coming back from the hereafter and telling us, but they don't, so it must be a pretty good place. Depending on how depending on how you envision it. We don't know what we don't know, and that's one of the things he alluded to. So I think that it's a hard thing to deal with. I taught death and dying and grieving at San Francisco State University for the last 5 years. I would come in as a lecturer and talk about those things, and I was in China when the earthquake happened, and they asked me to come in and talk about how the Americans would support the Chinese in their time of despair. And what I told them was that if we're lucky enough to know that we're dying, or that a family person or somebody we know is dying, we can grieve. We can start the grieving process, which creates healing for us. Even though it doesn't feel like it, it does in a subliminal way. But when you have an accident, or you're not prepared for death from a natural cause or some type of thing like that, then there's a great deal of loss and pain that's felt by those that are left behind that don't have a chance to get ready for it, and they're not able to grieve. And so I was giving them exercises in writing their own legacies, which you all might try, all your listeners might try to write a one-page legacy about what you feel you left behind. And you can end up recording that or doing a video of yourself when you get it to where you want it to be, and you can work at it and leave that for people that are left behind, who are the ones that are left to suffer, because you're gone physically and mentally, at least we know, from this earth that we know. And it's a very philosophical thing, talking about death and dying. When one ceases to live by breathing, functioning in a normal physiologic manner, and your brain is dead, then we consider you dead. And Kubler-Ross, who developed the stages of dying, death and dying in terms of denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance, those are those 5 stages that she came up with in her own death process, refuted all of those things.
I wasn't aware of that.
And probably because she died in a different manner. She had awareness of death. She had awareness of what it was like to die from all the people that she worked with as a psychiatrist. And so she refuted her own theories because she was not in denial about it, and she wasn't angry about it, and there wasn't any bargaining and depression. There was total acceptance.
Huh.
And that makes a difference.
Tell you what, we are at the end of our time. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, this topic will beg more and more time in the near future. I promise to bring Dr. Eric Shapira back. But for now, let's say I'll see you on Wednesday. Until then, this is Dr. Dennis Courtney with Dr. Eric Shapira.
Thank you, Dan.
Saying so long for An Impact on Your Health.
By Dennis J. Courtney, MD, Director of the Courtney Medical Group, located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray, Pennsylvania. For more information or to make an appointment, call 724-942-3002. That's 724-942-3002 for Dennis J. Courtney, MD.
KHB and the Westmoreland County Area Agency on Aging wants you to know PennDOT offers 511, a public service where travelers can get information like traffic conditions, highway construction updates, road conditions, weather conditions and alerts, and much more.